Okay.
Let's
Time
talk about your new favorite movie.
The Return of the Living Dead.
Yeah.
So we were just looking for other zombie movies to watch to kind of throw into the mix, and the boyfriend loved this one and suggested it, and he was not wrong. Here's an interesting thing of note. So John Rousseau, I guess, wrote Night of the Living Dead with Romero.
Right.
And then when they parted ways, Rousseau had the rights to any titles featuring Living Dead, while Romero was free to create his own sequels, beginning with Dawn of the Dead. This is from Wikipedia. Not. So this is actually weirdly kind of an offshoot of Night of the Living Dead. Although Night of the Living Dead is referenced several times within this movie.
Yes.
This movie is from 85, and it is so 80s and beautiful and wonderful in its 80s-ness. It's I hate calling things trashy, but it's like hardcore. Let's call it hardcore 80s, because we've got like punks and teenagers driving around, and we have that like goth punk.
Well, so first off, spoilers for everything.
Spoilers for everything. Lamenting all the work he does for his friends. Yeah. So this film, do you want a synopsis since I synopsised?
Yeah, let me take a shot at this. This should be pretty simple. We are at a what would it be called? This where you said like it's a medical
supplies.
Medical supplies, but specifically like skeletons and like dogs that have been cut in half and all that. And we're training a new guy, and they go downstairs and they talk about these barrels that have these, dead people in them that were accidentally shipped there from the military. And he says they're military grade, and he slaps it, and smoke comes out, and goblin music starts. And from here on out, it's going to be the return of the living dead. And then from there, it's people trying to get rid of this body that started moving again, which then leads to more bodies because they're right next to a cemetery, and there's a crematory involved, and that's it. That's what it is. And there's some punks and some kids who are friends of our lead who show up.
Okay, yes, I agree with you. It's not actual goblin music. It's just
is it not?
No, but it's goblin-like. It's like 80s heavy metal, not death metal kind of stuff.
That's a great that cut from slapping that to like the smoke and the music starting. Yeah. That is an amazing little beat that they have. That is so good.
Here's what I think the thing that I feel a little wistful you just left out of the synopsis there is that or some a distinction I want to make. I have talked about how in all these films it's like, normally there's a slow build in horror, but in the films we've been watching, it's just like, bam, zombies. Yeah. Right? This is a slow build because we get the whole lore of these medical containers, which is Night of the Living Dead. Like, that is where they use it. They're like, basically, Night of the Living Dead is a true story, and this is the zombies from Night of the Living Dead, right?
Yeah.
Well, what gets out there seems to only infect one or two things. And we've got like these Joe Blow guys and this kid who's just been hired to this job that he now doesn't want anymore.
Yeah.
Trying to deal with just two dead things. Actually, I think they're only dealing with one because they don't know about the other. They're only trying to deal with the one and then the half dogs.
Yeah.
But in their attempts to deal with that, they involve the guy at the crematorium next door, and their solution to that problem causes the cemetery to be infected, which is where we get the interesting difference between this film and some of the other ones we've watched where the dead actually rise from the ground, which we have not seen. So I don't believe it's happening. And then that slowly, and there's this constant one-upping, like, these guys are mostly trapped in the crematorium at that point with Eddie, who may be one of my favorite characters because he's just Ernie, not Eddie. Ernie.
Yeah, remember, it's Bert and Ernie.
Right. Who just, he takes everything, like, he's almost us in that they come, they're like, we need to burn this up. And he's like, okay, why are you asking for that? Like, he's very reasonable in the midst of all this nonsense. But then we just watched like, so now there are all these zombies out there. They're trapped inside, and like we watch these like people coming to try and like rescue the last people, and just every time they just get overwhelmed by the dead, and it just keeps escalating. And it's
there's a great setup because we have I think at first the paramedics show up to deal with the kid and the guy who is training the kid, who are not Bert and Ernie. I forget their names. And they are like suffering ill effects from the smoke that they've taken in, or the gas from that canister. And so the paramedics show up, but then the paramedics go outside to like get some. They're like, you guys don't have a pulse, you don't have whatever, but you're moving, so you're alive, but you should be dead.
Right.
And they go outside.
It's actually Freddie and Bert, the medical supplies guy, because they inhaled the gas. Yeah.
I thought Bert was the guy who shows up later, who owns the medical supply place.
I don't think so. I think.
Oh, well, whatever. Anyways, so the paramedics go outside, and then they get eaten by some dead people. And then and then one of them goes up to the thing and says, "Send more paramedics," or something. Yeah. And they send some more paramedics, and they like get immediately eaten. And then I think it's like some police show up because whatever. And then it's like, send more police or whatever. And the payoff for that is so good, because you think that's it. You think you got your payoff is that they did it twice. But no, there's more payoff to it, basically.
Yeah, no. And that's the thing that I thought was, it's over the top, and yet it still builds in this slow, methodical way. And Bert and Freddie, I think it's okay. I'm also
going to pull up the Wikipedia.
Frank, you're right. Frank. It's Frank and Freddie. Frank and Freddie are the guys, who start us off in the medical supply. They both breathe in the gas, and like their situation, like at one point they're dead, but they're still talking, and they're like going into rigor mortis, but they're still talking. And like the existential horror of like being aware of your own death.
And that you're turning into a living dead.
Yeah, and we've watched all these Romero ones where it's like, oh, shoot me before it happens, and da-da-da. And this was kind of subversion where they're like, we don't know what to do because they're still talking, And
well, but they even in the medical place, they're like, well, in the movie they shoot them in the head and they die. So they take a pickaxe to this dead thing's head and it does nothing.
Yeah. So
that's just so great.
There's a lot of subversion. Well, yeah, they had that whole plan. One of my guys, they have that whole plan for how to deal with the cadaver that's become infected, and like immediately it goes wrong. Immediately, it's got that good thing too, where you have people trying to deal with an impossible situation, and everything goes wrong, just constantly. And then you've got the heavy metal, and you've got the punks, and you've got the dead bodies talking.
The friends are like waiting for Freddie to get off of work, essentially, and like they go and they're like, well, what are we going to do for 2 hours? And so they go into the cemetery because they're punks and they're not, there's no goths yet, or maybe there are goths, I don't know, but they're whatever. And so they're in the cemetery just like hanging around and complaining, and these guys their lines are ridiculous, they're over delivered, and it seems very intentional, like it was on purpose. And like Trash, who is played by Linnea Quigley, who is a scream queen because of this movie, I think.
Yes.
It's like,
and her character's name is Trash. I just said I don't like calling things trashy. Her character's name is Trash.
Yes, what they call her is Trash. And like, now, okay. So I don't know the circumstances of this movie. It is possible that she did this under protest. I don't know. But she takes, like, at some point she's like getting hot and bothered by the cemetery. So she gets on top of a grave and takes her shirt off, and someone says, oh, there she goes, she's getting naked again, and she gets full nudity, like off. You see breasts in these movies, that happens, right? But no, she takes it all off. You can see push. Like, and it's like, I'm, as somebody of the modern era who appreciates the naked form of all types, of all people, and certainly I have a preference towards the female naked form, the born female naked form. And I'm just like, what is happening? She's just, we're not that far into the movie. We're like 20 minutes into the movie when this is happening. And she's just dancing naked on this thing. And it's like, okay, nudity, because it's the 80s and that's how you sell movies. And I hope that she enjoyed it and wasn't totally icked out by it. I doubt that's what it was. But I'm all for the nudity and just being free and free the nipple and free whatever.
Yeah.
And then she is naked for the rest of the movie.
Yes.
Puts a jacket on at some point, and she's like
Yeah.
getting burned because of the rain that's full of like dead people stuff, dead people crematorium stuff. And like there's a payoff later because she eventually dies, and then she's naked, and this homeless man sees her, and then she kills somebody, and she's still naked through the whole thing.
Yeah.
It's like I at one point
But
I think
that's like,
I made a comment to you and our friend while we were watching it, and I'm like, so ma'am, you're going to be in this movie, and we're going to make you naked for about 20 minutes, and then you're going to die, and that's what it is. And was she like, sure, I need to get in the film business? But no, it's actually for more than that. Anyways.
no, and that's the joy of this movie is it's over the top, and yet it's still, you know, some movies just devolve. I mean, we watched Blazing Saddles recently, which almost is that, where it just kind of devolves into just like, and it's a good movie, but there's a point at which it's just like, it's just everywhere. Like the plot is just like, it's like leaking across your house as you watch it. Like, but this is like, it's still very tight. Like the characters stay true to themselves, and they're not like deep characters, but they don't need to be. I really enjoyed this movie.
Thinking of the Night of the Living Dead franchise, like more or less all these movies fall into like a one location event movie. I call them, I don't know what, I think event movie might be a term and I might be misusing it. Who knows?
Right.
But
except
like
for Land Diary and Survival don't really. The first
they aren't as much event movies. Like they have more of a story, but like the first three are kind of like event movies. An event happens, here we are. We're dealing with it, and that's like the structure of the story is them dealing with the event. Like Return of the Living Dead, it's an event movie. Like there's almost no story. I don't think there's social commentary in here. I don't know. There kind of is, but like it's really just here's an event, here's them dealing with it. It's over the top fun. Like I would watch this movie on the big screen 100%. Like it's so much fun.
No, it makes me think of stuff like Night of the Comet or even something like They Live, where it's just like it's saying a little something, you know, but mostly it's just fun.
Yeah.
They Live is saying more than
well, They Live is saying more than this one is. It's interesting because I'm talking about it, it's making me realize how much fun I had with it. It's still not ultimately my kind of movie necessarily. I think I got a little like, there are a couple moments where it dragged for me for whatever reason. Like there's not a big story to this movie. It's just things happening kind of, there's situational stories, but not like a structure necessarily of like, here's our hero and he's going to go save the day. Like it's situational stuff. And I don't always do as well with those movies, just I guess, which is maybe why I like some of the big budget stuff more than you, but I don't know. It's like, I had a few moments where it dragged for me here and there, but at the same time, like, I don't think I could ask for them to change anything. Like this is kind of exactly what you want out of this movie,
I love people dealing with ridiculous situations and but still being people. And so we have Ernie who kind of has his head on his shoulders, although he may have Nazi tendencies.
That's why I'm like, I kind of like the Ernie character, but if he's a Nazi, I don't like him anymore. What's up with? I need to like rewatch and see the things that
I think it's some weird sense of humor. But that he's just this guy. But then you also had, the medical supply people who just want to cover up that they made a mistake at their job. Like that is and that's like such a human thing. Like we've all tried to cover up a mistake we've made at work. It's just usually it doesn't involve, and the kids just want to have fun. And like, this is, so they're very human, even as the situation they're, and just grappling. And that's what I like versus, Night of the Living Dead, where Dwayne Jones is very capable and like does what you should do, but like, would we really do that? I mean, maybe. Well, I mean, they do board up all the windows. There's that. Why are there so many windows in this place?
Which I think is a commentary on I think it was you that said that it's a commentary on Night of the Living Dead. Well, and it's interesting. They put in this sprinkle of like, here's this military guy, and this like he has like it for no reason. It's like, oh, we see he has this kind of like he's being henpecked by his wife or something. I don't know. It's this weird like little thing, and it's like, oh, so and there's a number on the canisters that doesn't get called until much later, and it's like, what is this? This is going to come back, right? That's the military man. This is the number. We know what's going to happen, and it comes back later, and you're like, oh, okay, this is what we think, and then what happens is what you think is going to happen. He blows everything up. But then after that, it's like it doesn't matter. Zombies everywhere, right?
Yeah, it's just gonna perpetuate the problem.
Yeah. So it was interesting. Like he's asking them, but like the payoff of that is even kind of good in a way. Like it's better than I thought it was gonna be, because like what's gonna happen. But like he's like, okay, why didn't you call right away? Oh, I see. Well, how long?
It's dealt with. I mean, it makes me think of the Doctor Strangelove. Some of those like interplay.
Yeah,
Everybody's like acting, you know, like the situation is you know, situation normal, all fucked up, kind of a, you know.
Yeah. No, totally. It was a very fun movie.
I recommend. I would watch Dawn of the Dead and Return. Either one of these I would watch before most of the rest of what we've been watching.
I don't know if it would beat out like Night of the Living Dead necessarily, but it might. It is more fun.
It would.
I don't know.
It would for me. Do I think it's the better film? I mean, it sure is a slice of 80s.
It's again, you can't. It's. I mean, we compare these
Right.
things just because that's how we work as humans, but they're not terribly comparable. You wouldn't watch, like, they're just two different types of movies. Like, are you in the mood for fun? Night of the Return of the Living Dead. Are you interested in like history and like zombie lore? Night of the Living Dead. You know.
Right.
Anyways, the one thing we didn't mention, real quick, is like Dan O'Bannon directed this.
Yes. And we like Dan O'Bannon.
Yeah, I don't really. There's more to him than this, but we mostly know him from the documentary about the Dune movie that didn't get made. What is it? Inarritu's? No, not Inarritu's. Jodorowsky's Dune.
Yes.
And it's like he's in that, and it's interesting. Like, you know, he's talking about he was on like drugs or something when Jodorowsky came to see him or something. Like, there's some great stuff with him in there. But
they did. I think they did pot together or something like that.
Yeah.
I forget. But he met John Carpenter at USC, and they worked on a science fiction film called Dark Star together, which I think is how Jodorowsky got interested in him, because Jodorowsky did not care for Doug Trumbull,
right,
who did the visual effects for 2001, I think.
Right, I think that makes sense. And yeah, so O'Bannon, and that is Carpenter's first film.
Right, but O'Bannon went on to write Alien.
Right.
I don't
like I know he did some. I think he did some other stuff, but
yeah. So he wrote that. Well, the thing that came up. Sorry, this is like super exciting for people to hear, I'm sure. He worked on the script for that, and then he became the director of this.
Got it.
Because I guess Tobe Hooper or Toby Hooper was going to work on this, but backed out of Life Force. Oh, Life Force was a script of his. Sorry, that's what I was trying to get. Life Force is. I haven't actually seen it. I've seen pieces of it.
Is Life Force the one with Patrick Stewart in it?
And vampires in space and a lot of
right. I'm very curious about whatever this trash is.
Yeah. So he's involved in some. He's one of those people. You know, we talk about like Spielberg and I guess Lucas and Howard and, you know, these people that are like the prestige films. But then you have these people that I feel like have their hands in all these interesting, which are more my kind of films again than like the Spielberg film. So Dan O'Bannon seems to have had one of those careers where he was involved in a lot of kind of interesting genre films that aren't the kind of things that get a lot of prestige just because of the way we measure prestige. So anyway, interesting guy.
Interesting guy.
Watch Jodorowsky's Dune. See his widow.